First World War atrocity propaganda is primarily focused on the atrocities committed by German troops as they invaded Belgium in 1914. The power of atrocity propaganda can be seen in the convergence of a series of events, beginning with the invasion of Belgium, the execution of Edith Cavell, the sinking of the Lusitania, resulting in the loss of 1,200 civilian lives. All of this seemed to confirm German barbarism. Further stories only seemingly intensified this idea. The Zeppelin raids, the use of what were considered to be unconventional weapons, such as the use of poison gas, flamethrowers, and so on. All of this fitted the master narrative of German barbarism that was begun with the invasion of Belgium in 1914 and actually persisted throughout the war. It continued to be a dominant theme even in 1918, when a number of pieces of propaganda started to begin this idea of once a Hun, always a Hun, and that persisted way beyond the war itself. These are two examples of the type of atrocity propaganda that was quite common, and they depict two of the most fundamental events surrounding atrocity. The first is the execution of Edith Cavell, and we can see in this series of images the depiction of the German here as being the slayer of Edith Cavell, assisted by death. This postcard here depicts the suffering of civilians in the Lusitania, and you can see them grasping on for dear life following the U-boat attack, the merciless U-boat attack by the Germans. And this again depicts German barbarity targeting civilians. Undoubtedly, both sides committed atrocities, and there was a very similar case to that of Edith Cavell committed by Allied troops that simply was not picked up by German propagandists. But German propagandists were really fighting from a difficult position, because they had committed the ultimate atrocity, and that was the invasion of Belgium. So they always were on the back foot. There are a variety of techniques that propagandists use to depict the enemy, and there are real tensions in that propaganda. Because on the one hand, you don't want to minimise the power of the enemy, because ultimately you want to prove that you are beating a formidable foe. But equally, you don't want to demonise the enemy to the extent that you induce terror in your fighting and producing peoples. These postcards are a good example of the variety of propaganda images concerning the Germans. We have an interesting contrast between the German soldier, who is showing how cruel they are to animals, and this depicts their slaughter of Red Cross dogs that they're going to roast for dinner. Contrast that to the Allied soldier who is caring for this billy goat here, and that caring attitude. There's a very good contrast between the culture of and civilization in the Tommy and the barbarity of the Hun. The Germans, on the other hand, depicted the British as using power politics in Europe to assert their dominance over other European powers, that while the British Empire was unable to expand unchecked, that the German Empire was being confined unnecessarily. This was all about imperialism and imperial powers fighting it out. And the Germans also depicted perfidious Albion, the idea of British hypocrisy, that while the British were condemning the Germans for their suppression of peoples, the British Empire, of course, was suppressing their peoples in Ireland, in India, in Egypt, across the Middle East. So German propaganda really pointed to their own civilization, moral superiority in culture, while pointing to the hypocrisy of British imperialists.